Good afternoon, scholars, staff, alumni, and friends. My name is Aaliyah Young. I'm the Vice President of GAPS, and it is my honor and pleasure to introduce you to today's speaker, Dr. Adrienne Madison. Dr. Madison is an esteemed scholar, mentor, and leader whose work reminds us that innovation often begins long before a legacy is established. Dr. Madison is a proud alumna of the University of Georgia, go Dogs, where she earned her PhD in biological and agricultural engineering in 2013. She is recognized as the College of Engineering's first graduate, a distinction that speaks not only to timing and the trailblazing that is paved by the path of Miss Early, but also to the legacy she continues on today. Her doctoral research, which focused on the use of medical imaging and advanced modeling to predict biomechanical behavior of muscle tissues and bone, has laid the foundation for some of the most innovative and consequential research taking place in the country today. In her current role as a principal investigator and subject matter expert at the U.S. Army Aeromedical Research Laboratory, Dr. Madison oversees research in injury biomechanics with a focus on sustaining mission performance for service members operating in demanding air and ground military environments. Her work has directly contributed to the development and dissemination of the helmet system guidelines for ground soldiers, extending critical safety standards that previously existed only for aviators. Throughout this impressive career, Dr. Madison has remained committed to mentorship and community. For more than 20 years, she's been a STEM mentor for students from elementary school through the collegiate level, while also using this professional platform to promote health, wellness, and all things within her community. This commitment has been showcased through the sustained involvement in graduate and professional student spaces, leadership within engineering communities, and most recently, as a founding graduate advisor for the University of Georgia's chapter of the National Society of Black Engineers. Her presence in these spaces has helped shape the very ecosystems that support and elevate graduate scholars today. Dr. Madison's excellence has been widely recognized as she has been named a UGA Amazing Student in 2013, selected as a part of the 2019 UGA 40 Under 40 class, honored as a 2023 Community Trailblazer by the Birmingham Metro NAACP, and most recently recognized as the 2024 Southeastern Region 40 Under 40 cohort by Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. In every sense, Dr. Madison's journey reflects the spirit of the Mary Frances Early Lecture, a legacy rooted in persistence, purpose, and the belief that progress is most meaningful when it creates room for others. Please join me in welcoming an accomplished scholar, a dedicated mentor, and a leader whose work continues to move institutions as well as people, Dr. Adrienne Madison.
Thank you, Aaliyah, for that amazing introduction. To President Moorhead, Provost Ayers, Dean Walcott, and the Graduate School, Dean Spangler, and the Mary Frances Early, whole name, College of Education, the Office of Academic and Community Engagement, graduate and professional scholars, all vice presidents, vice or associate provosts and deans, faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends. Last but not least, our guest of honor, our pillar, our trailblazer, and our guiding light, Ms. Mary Frances Early. Good afternoon. I am honored, yet humbled, to be chosen as your keynote speaker for the 26th Annual Mary Frances Early Lecture. Those closest to me will tell you two things. The first, I do not like to be the center of attention, and number two, I do not like talking about myself, yet here we are. But today is an exception. When Dean Walcott reached out to me, there was very minimal hesitation to accept. The only reason I hesitated was that I needed to check the email to make sure he actually meant to send it to me. As I brainstormed potential speech topics and themes to honor Ms. Early's legacy, while also obliging Dean Walcott's request to talk about my journey as a biomedical engineer, the word bloom kept making itself a pestering presence in my notes. I now realize that's the case for two reasons. My biography is pretty much a standard introduction to who I am. You see me as a scientist, a research biomedical engineer, or as I would like to simply say, a girl who likes pink and green and tinkering with things. But today, in this setting, I ask you to grant me the courtesy of being viewed as one of the branches from Miss Early's tree, a perennial bloom rising from the soil enriched from her grit. My petals are colored by her vision and legacy, and my roots are anchored in her resolve. In addition to being a branch and bloom of Miss Early, I consider this stage of my life as my season of bloom. I feel that I have reached full bloom, the vibrant fruition of a purpose decades in the making, the flowering of a personal legacy of determination that has found its season after years of labor, sowing and cultivating in my educational pursuit and training, pruning and watering my career in injury biomechanics, and as well as pouring into others via mentorship. My ability to be the bloom or blossom you see today is the result of three unyielding traits: a foundation firmly rooted in a love and interest of STEAM, or science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, the resilience to weather or endure through changing and challenging seasons, and the persistent desire to keep reaching towards my highest purpose. I'm frequently asked why or how I chose biomedical engineering. The truth of the matter is, biomedical engineering chose me. However, long before I knew what biomedical engineering was, my curiosity and attraction to STEAM was evident in my adolescence, and I am truly grateful that my village tended and nurtured these interests. Some of my most treasured memories entail my grandmother giving me the task of measuring ingredients for her baking recipes when I was struggling with fractions, my grandfather helping me with long division when I just couldn't understand why we needed remainders, my dad helping me with multiplying double-digit numbers, and my mom making sure we also had an appreciation for creative arts and athletics, enrolling us in dance classes and music lessons. I remember the excitement when I connected the dots between the tempo and pace of musical notes and fractions. As y'all can see, I struggle with fractions a lot. I also remember being overly fascinated with simple machines, how levers, pulleys, inclined planes, screws, and wedges were the foundations and gateways to so many of the concepts and tools we use in our daily life. That fascination ultimately led me to be curious enough to take apart a few small appliances to get a glimpse of how they work. Now, I am not sure of what the statute of limitations are for getting in trouble with your parents, so I'll just end this conversation here. I must also credit my mom for introducing me to the scientific method. Each year from the 5th through the 8th grade, we were tasked to come up with a science project and showcase the outcomes in the school science fair. I remember her taking us to the library to look up topics. Once we chose a topic, she had us figure out our title, hypothesis, and methods. We then had to conduct our experiments and summarize our results and discuss. I loved doing this and looked forward to the science fair every year. Looking back, I realized I never chose topics that were simple or tradition. The three I can remember were related to radon gas, anabolic steroids, and tuberculosis. And not to brag, I probably only remember those three because I won first place that year. So I know I left you hanging in suspense earlier when I said biomedical engineering chose me. This is a bittersweet topic that I would usually gloss over or avoid altogether. My grandmother was a type 2 diabetic. When I was 13, she experienced complications that ultimately led to the need for her toes to be amputated. I can just imagine she'd be so upset that I am telling you all her business right now. The news was devastating and immediately followed up with concerns of how her mobility would be affected. I'm not sure when I fully began to process how much of a life-changing event that was, but I could sense the angst and worry from the adults. I felt helpless and compelled to figure out a way to ease her anxiety and the sadness about what was to come. You see, my grandmother had an impressive shoe collection. She loved her heels. I know who Ferragamo is today because of my grandmother. The amputation of her toes not only meant her mobility would be affected, but it also came with the realization that she would no longer be able to wear certain shoes. Therefore, my approach was to grab a pair of her shoes and stuff them with tissue and cotton stuffing. I felt that if we could mimic the shape of the missing toes in the shoe, she would be able to wear her shoes, at least the lower-heeled ones, and be able to walk without major issues. If only it were that simple. I didn't solve that problem, but who knew that that experience would shape my life for years to come? At the time, I had no idea that my attempt to help my grandmother was related to biomedical engineering. Unfortunately, she passed not long after the amputation surgery. But you often hear the adage that grief is love with nowhere to go. I slightly disagree. For me, that heartbreak was transformative. That pain laid the groundwork for my purpose and my calling. As a high school junior, I asked my counselor to help me find a major that had aspects of medicine, science, and engineering. I specifically requested that it not be something where I had to work on the front lines. Shadowing my mom as a critical care nurse let me know that I did not want to be involved in direct patient care and treatment. A few days later, she called me to her office. She told me she had found the perfect career for me. She had prepared a folder of information about biomedical engineering and a list of colleges and universities that had that major. Now, I'm probably going to age myself here, but that was before the days you could do a Google search. So I knew that folder was a labor of love. I'll never forget the front of the folder said, Adrienne Madison, biomedical engineer. I left her office so excited to read the contents of that folder, and the rest is history. Biomedical engineering was my destiny. Almost 30 years later, I still struggle with the fact that I had to lose my grandmother to gain a love for biomedical engineering. And although I ultimately chose a different focus area outside of prosthetics and orthotics, I remain committed and dedicated to the field of study because I get to honor her memory daily. Talking about resilience requires reflection, which is difficult for me. In order for me to highlight what I've accomplished and achieved, I must also share what I overcame and endured. Biomedical engineering choosing me was the easy part. The soil was broken and plowed by the blades of losing my grandmother. Becoming the biomedical engineer I wanted to be would require much more commitment, 12 years of sowing educational seeds. Prior to my arrival at UGA, these educational seeds were sown in 2 other gardens or nurseries, the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and the University of Missouri. Before I continue, in honor of Black History Month, I would like to pause and acknowledge the trailblazers who paved the way for me at those institutions of higher learning. Jean Mitchell Gray, Theodis Robinson Jr., and Charles Blair, and Willie Mae Gillespie at the University of Tennessee, and Dr. Gus T. Ridgel, Elmer Bell, and George Horn at the University of Missouri. There were a lot of highs, lows, and defining moments throughout my educational journey. After all, both rain and sunshine are required for growth. Each of these previous stops served as a vital stage of preparation and maturation. UT was the stony proving ground where I gave foundational engineering knowledge and developed the resilience to push through resistance. I arrived in Knoxville at 17, excited about the ability to study at a place I had long admired from watching Pat Summitt and the Lady Volunteers. Making good grades had always come easily for me, so when we were repeatedly told that the first year of engineering is designed to weed out students, I completely brushed it off as a scare tactic. But listen, that first semester humbled me. After a 6-credit-hour engineering class, calculus, and chemistry, I found myself on academic probation. Yes, you heard that correctly. Never before had I felt like such a failure. During my winter break, I sulked and worried about whether I could bounce back from this. The upcoming semester classes would be just as difficult, if not more challenging. I had to prioritize on repairing my academic reputation over everything else. I knew that GPA didn't reflect who I was. However, I had to accept the fact that I would largely be judged by that number. Any future doors opened or opportunities afforded to me would be heavily influenced by that number. So I had to really put a lot of effort into making sure I only improved it from then on. Now, I was not the only engineering student whose first semester grades fell short, but many of them took that as a sign to switch majors before too much time had been invested. I'd be lying if I said I didn't briefly consider it, but that consideration was only short-lived. First, I had never quit anything in my life. Failing or not succeeding the first time only motivated me to go harder and to prove to myself and others that I could do it. Secondly, there was not another major I felt would give me the happiness and content that biomedical engineering would. Now, I would have been successful at whatever else I chose, but nothing else gave me the warm and fuzzies. I knew I had to be intentional and strategic in my approach to finish this degree. I eventually reached the point where I made the engineering department's dean list every semester, but do not be fooled. Pulling my grades up did not happen in a couple of semesters. I spent the remainder of my undergraduate years on an upward climb with no room for additional setbacks. There were more than a few difficult semesters. I ended up doing 5 continuous years of undergraduate courses, no summer breaks. I chose this approach so that I would not overload semesters with courses. The downside of this approach was that it significantly changed my original plans of gaining hands-on engineering experience through summer external internships or alternating semester co-ops. Despite this, I began looking at jobs that I felt I would like to do post-graduation, ultimately deciding to pursue a career in medical device patent and intellectual property law. This would require a master's degree in law school. So my plan was to go to graduate school, get a master's degree in biomedical engineering, get a job to gain experience in the engineering industry, then eventually go back to law school. So in addition to improving my grades, I looked for on-campus opportunities to help boost my graduate and law school applications. One of those opportunities was being a mentor and counselor for the Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation, or LSAMP programs designed to introduce middle and high school students as well as incoming freshmen in engineering. That experience helped me identify that mentoring was something I was both good and passionate about. My undergraduate experience built character and reiterated that I was going to have to continue to work hard to reach my goals. At the time of graduation in May, I did not have a single graduate school acceptance letter. It seemed as if everyone else knew what their next step was, whether it was a job opportunity or medical, law, or pharmacy school. Despite this, I tried to remain optimistic. After all, I had gone from academic probation to the dean's list. So I moved back home and picked up part-time work while continuing to apply for graduate programs in entry-level engineering positions. The University of Missouri, or Mizzou, was my nurse plant. As a seedling, it provided shade and moisture, protecting and nurturing me while I was still vulnerable and nervous about my ability to successfully pursue engineering at the next educational level. During my continued search for graduate school opportunities, I came across a posting looking for a graduate student to conduct research under a recently funded grant to develop bioreactors for tissue-engineered blood vessels. The focus area was perfectly aligned with my future career goal. I wanted to reach out immediately. However, I was consumed with the fear that so many others with higher GPAs and other or more impressive resumes had already done so, and that my contact attempt would only result in rejection. But looking back, I'm glad that I did not let fear stop me or hinder me from taking a chance on myself. I decided that I was going to do more than just send an email to express interest and express more information about the opportunity. I was going to leverage this opportunity to set myself apart from others, hopefully providing a convincing case on why I deserve to be given a fair shot. And it worked. That email connected me to Dr. Mark Heidecker, a key cultivator of my journey. His patience and guidance provided the staking I needed. Not only did he foster my growth, but he gently redirected my trajectory towards both UGA and the career I have today. As you can see, I never made it to law school. Why? because after a few weeks in Columbia working in his lab on the bioreactor research, he asked if I would consider pursuing a PhD. His rationale was, it's just law school. You can go back to law school at any time. Prior to that moment, I do not recall at any point in my life having a desire to get a PhD in anything, let alone engineering. However, I didn't take this offer lightly because I figured he would not have suggested it if he didn't feel I was capable. The second part of the redirection would come a few months later. He shared that he was planning to leave Mizzou because he had accepted a position in Georgia to lead the development of the electrical and computer engineering program. He also stated that he informed me last because he knew I'd be the easiest to convince to join him. He was 100% correct. I had just survived my first Midwest snowstorm and was feeling very homesick for the South. I'd like to believe that I was not just a seed blown by the wind. Instead, my arrival at UGA as a PhD student was intentional and a curated transition. The ultimate act of cultivation, demonstrative of Dr. Heidecker's continued willingness and commitment to provide a fertile environment for me to thrive. The University of Georgia's College of Engineering and I share a unique yet beautiful overlap or parallel. From 2007 to 2013, we were growing in the same greenhouse, each in the early stages of rooting and putting in the quiet underground work of building the trunk and branch of a legacy. For the then Faculty of Engineering under the College of Biological and Agricultural Sciences, it was to successfully execute and bring to fruition an opportunity that a previous land grant agreement had hindered for many years, a College of Engineering. For me, that opportunity proved to be trifold: to accomplish what was once unthinkable, obtaining the highest level of education possible in my field. Second, to be part of the College of Engineering blueprint, forever etched in the history of the latest branch in UGA's educational offerings. And lastly, to represent an expansion of Ms. Early's legacy, a blooming example of how her fearless tenacity, resilience, and quiet perseverance continues to be embedded within UGA's orchard of growth and success. Now, while this metaphorical expression about my time at UGA appears to reflect an easy or magical path to a perfect bloom, the reality was much different. The growth occurring underground was much more challenging than the growth visible on the surface. There were semesters of sour soil, periods of bound, tangled, or thirsty roots, and patches of cold ground. Overcoming sour soil struggles to maintain a realistic balance between the course and research hour loads required to grow, evolve, and progress as a graduate student prepared me for the rigor and discipline required in my current role as a principal investigator leading musculoskeletal injury biomechanics research. Fighting through roots that were tangled, thirsty, and bound due to the funding challenges and limitations of a developing engineering program ultimately opened doors to teaching and mentorship opportunities both on and off campus. These include being the inaugural engineering graduate fellow under the UGA Center for Undergraduate Research Opportunity, or CURO, as well as multi-year involvement in the Better Educated Students of Tomorrow 21st Century Dreamers program in Greene County, as well as the Peach State Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation here on campus. The patches of cold ground when I felt my research progress was dormant or stalled because of canceled funding in combination with limited software capabilities fueled the innovation and pruning of proficiencies and skills that ultimately led to my computational biomechanics research emphasis and dissertation topic, because I had to figure out a way to get it done. My time at UGA was a rare full cycle of growth. I began as a seedling, entering a program that was itself just beginning to take root. Completing my doctoral program was a transition marking the beginning of a season that was entirely new and unfamiliar. For the last 12 years, I had been deeply entrenched in the soil of academia, pressing towards the goal of becoming a biomedical engineer. In jest, I used to refer to my time as a PhD student as the dark ages, but now, in my reflection and preparation for this address, I realized my journey was the complete opposite. The reality is, I wasn't wandering or trapped in the darkness, I was germinating. What I once viewed as a shadow was actually the rich, quiet earth required for a seed to crack open and find its strength. That strength was tested up until the final hours, literally. In a true testament to my resilience, my journey culminated with a sudden, intense bloom, defending my dissertation and completing all edits in a single day. If you don't believe me, Dr. Kisalita is here and he will tell you. My defense began at 9 a.m. and all edits and signed forms had to be turned in by 4:30 p.m. It was the final forceful push through the soil that proved my determination the moment I finally broke the surface as a newly sprouted shoot, Dr. Adrienne Madison, the first doctoral graduate from the University of Georgia College of Engineering. At the time, I didn't realize I was the first. I actually didn't find out until about a year later. Now that I had reached the light, I was tasked with how I would leave my footprint or mark in my career. I wanted to ensure that this next chapter would allow continued upward progression and growth and be in service to others. I was fortunate to land a job opportunity closely aligned with UGA's mission to teach, to serve, and inquire about the nature of things. I am grateful for the platform and responsibility to be able to lead innovative and groundbreaking multidisciplinary research focus areas geared towards preventing musculoskeletal injuries and optimizing performance for service members who have taken an oath to protect our freedoms. Despite always knowing that I wanted to leverage my PhD completely outside of the academic setting, I continuously seek opportunities in both my career and community that incorporate teaching aspects through mentorship. Many may wonder why, among the various ways to extend my reach, I have chosen membership as the primary conduit for activism. The truth is, I love mentorship as much as I love biomedical engineering research. Mentorship is an essential catalyst for forward progress, a crucial sap that ensures a community's growth remains unbroken. It is the act of scattering new seeds into the soil made rich by trailblazers like Ms. Early. By extending my branch, I can contribute to the vitality of a legacy planted almost 64 years ago by a figure small in stature but a titan in tenacity. My passion for mentorship is driven by a firm conviction. Our youth cannot take root in a landscape they haven't seen. To thrive, they need exposure to diverse, realistic, and relatable STEAM representation. Currently, the STEAM presence during school career fairs often feel like a replanting or reinforcement of the same seeds or concepts. Physicians and nurses, physical therapists, civil engineers, as well as accountants and bankers. Now that's no shade to those fields. They are very much valid and needed. However, the result is a creation of a limited understory that fails to show students the full breadth of career options and paths possible through the pairing of STEAM interests with their unique hobbies and talents. Out of curiosity, I recently conducted a literature search to identify the projected top 10 evolving STEAM careers. Did you really think we were going to get through this without me sharing some type of experiment or data? While the order or rank varied across sources, the fields and the titles were consistent. So I'll just list them in alphabetical order. Artificial intelligence, AI, or machine learning, bioinformatics, biomedical engineering, cybersecurity, data science and analytics, epidemiology, genetics, neuroscience, renewable energy, and software development or cloud engineering. How often do these fields have representation at elementary, middle school, and high school career fairs? What can we do to change that? College of Engineering and College of Education, let's come together and figure this thing out. This could easily lead to several theses and dissertation topics. Allow me to use myself as an example. I did not encounter a biomedical engineer in real life until I was an undergraduate in college. if I can be more specific, I didn't encounter a biomedical engineer that was a Black woman until graduate school. While I was fortunate enough to have a guidance counselor to help me identify this field as a career choice in high school, I still lacked some early nutrients, such as the firsthand exposure to the various subsections of biomedical engineering. Having this information could have allowed me to better refine or prune my trajectory with more intention. Similar to Ms. Early's experience at UGA, I am often the first and only in my subject matter research settings and environments. However, I do not intend on being the last. Therefore, I feel charged with the responsibility to use my presence and reach to introduce and prepare others to follow in my footsteps. Because of this, my activism through mentorship is also fueled by a commitment to enrich the soil earlier, beginning exposure to STEM concepts and careers in elementary school. I do my part to ensure that the next generation isn't just willing to stumble upon their STEAM field in college. Instead, I strive for them to be empowered to branch out with purpose, selecting specific environments and growth conditions that best align with their truest potential as early as possible. As we annually reflect and pay homage to Ms. Early's legacy, we are reminded of the enduring strength of a lineage too powerful to wither. I stand before you today as a testament to what happens when you remain deeply rooted in your core values, resilient in seasons of adversity, and ever reaching towards a higher level of possibilities. It is from this vantage point, grounded yet ascending, that I have found my purpose and current season of bloom. Earlier, I expressed that I felt I had reached a full bloom, but I want to emphasize that reaching that full bloom does not mean fullest bloom. There is still more that I want to accomplish and achieve, even though I feel I no longer have anything to prove. After all, being part of being a self-described perennial bloom is that the work and the legacy must continue. Ms. Early has served as a trellis in my life, providing a structure I have used to climb and grow in my education, career, and opportunity, and community. I would like to close with a quick story. Actually, it is more of a show and tell. This envelope with my name was written by none other than Ms. Mary Frances Early. In spring 2013, she had asked the then president of GAPS for a list of all the graduating students. She sent each of us a handwritten card. I wasn't graduating until August, but I received the card in May. I originally intended to hold on to it, opening it only after I had completed my defense, so I placed it on my desk shelf for safekeeping. However, one day, after unsuccessfully trying to finish up some research for my dissertation, I felt defeated. I felt so close to the finish line, but yet still so far away. As I went to slam my hand on the desk in frustration, the envelope fell down from the desk shelf. I reached to grab it. I hadn't noticed until now that she had already addressed me as Dr. Adrienne Madison. In that moment, I told myself, Ms. Early has already written your name as doctor and congratulated you for your achievement. You cannot let her down. In the moment, I saw this as confirmation that I would complete my doctoral degree. But looking back, this envelope and card symbolized the passing of the torch from the first Black graduate of UGA to the first doctoral graduate from the University of Georgia College of Engineering. She entrusting me to continue her legacy in my own complete or unique way. My mentorship is now the commitment I make to sustaining that lineage, ensuring that the seeds she sowed continue to branch out and provide cover for all those following in her wake. So earlier in my introduction, when I said only Ms. Early and Dean Walcott could force me to publicly speak by myself, this is why. She helped push me to the finish line. And so it is my hope that by sharing my story through this platform may do the same for someone in this room or live stream. This is a full circle moment for me, evident by not only this envelope, but a second envelope. And that is the graduate school official invitation to be the keynote speaker for today. Now, as a former member of GAPS, I remember Ms. Early being very involved in the planning of this lecture. So my thought was, if she gave Dean Walcott the okay, then I must not be doing too bad. Dean Walcott, thank you again for this opportunity. Ms. Early, it has been the greatest honor being chosen to commemorate the 26th anniversary of your lecture series and the upcoming 64th anniversary of your determination to ensure that UGA became an institution of higher learning for all. I will continue to do my part to ensure the perpetuity of your influence and impact. And lastly, thank you to all of my family and friends who are here today or tuned in via the live stream. I am so grateful for your continued support. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak.